Hello, good evening and welcome to this edition of Good Evening Ghana. Thank you very much. Has it been a busy week for you? It's been a very busy week for all of us here at Metro TV. A lot happening, and you'll be hearing some important announcements about what we are deciding to do for you in the month of June. Tonight, though, we have a mixed grill, but our most important concern is about one district, one factory. As you would know, the big campaign promise of the MPP presidential candidate, Nana Akufo-Addo, was to establish in his tenure as president one factory in each district. Recently, Ghanaians have been worried about the trend of the success level of this promise. In fact, in our studios last Tuesday, Moses Fuamoinin, our lawyer and friend, was worried and commented about it. We have tonight for you, on the sidelines of the Commonwealth Conference, a big trade summit that occurred between Ghana and UK businessmen. And at the summit, there was a panel discussion about the future of Ghana's industrialization. President Akufo-Addo did speak, and so also did Mr. Adom-Otchere, the trade minister. But the important thing that we'll be directing you to is the analysis that was made by the Chief Executive Officer of Ghana Exim Bank, Mr. Lawrence Ajinsim. You should hear that, and we have that for you on this edition of the program. There was a panel discussion on the sidelines of the Commonwealth Conference. By the time you finish watching that, the question as to whether the Exim Bank is really really and truly the answer to the one district, one factory will be quite clear to you, and that's our main discussion. So welcome to the show. Before we get to that, though, earlier today, there was the big press conference by the coalition set up by Moses Fuamoinin against the agenda for legalizing same-sex marriages in Ghana. There was a big event, and the high point of the event is that the consortium, the group, called on the president of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, to make a clear statement about where he stands on the urging that he's getting from the international community to legalize gay marriage in Ghana. So we'll go and talk a bit about that. We'll show you what Moses said in our studio last Tuesday, and then we'll pick it from there. But also happening today, 19 years ago here in Ghana, there was a phenomenon. 19 years ago in Kumasi, in the Ashanti regional capital, this happened.
I don't think no, but no, seriously. Yes,
that was the 19-year-old swearing-in ceremony of the Asante-Hene Otumfuo Osei II. He's 19 years on the throne already. Wow, that's an interesting one. Congratulations to the Menchia Palace and also to the Asante-Hene, the occupant of the golden stool, Nana Osei II, the Asante-Hene. I had my own encounter with him quite early enough during his reign as Asante-Hene, and I was working in football circles in those days. And in 2001, as you can see on the photograph, Asante Kotoko, my favorite club. These days, we distinguish between our favorite local club and our favorite international club. But Asante Kotoko had won the league, and I was working with the communications team of the club, and we presented the trophy to the Asante-Hene. And that was the occasion where it was my turn to present the trophy to the king. This was in Menchia Palace in 2001. I've kept that photograph, and I'm quite proud of it. And those of you who'd like to congratulate me, you can. This occurred in 2001. How many years ago? Some 17 years ago. It was around early in the year when the Sylvester Asare-Owusu was the chairman of the club in those days. Guess where Sylvester is now? Sylvester Asare-Owusu, who was the chairman of the club when we won the league, is now the Bantamahene in Ashanti. And so a lot has changed since 2001. I am here and all the other members have scattered. Some have sadly passed, and may they rest in peace, like Major Yao Larson, who we fondly remember. But those were the nice, good old days of the great and mighty Asante Kotoko. Congratulations to the Otum for the Asante hymn. Welcome to Good Evening Ghana if you are just joining us. Tonight we are having a trade conversation, and we're trying to find out, we're asking the question, whether or not the Ghana Exim is the answer to the one district, one factory. And we'll be talking about that in great detail. Today, however, among the things that happened in Accra, there was a press conference by a colloquium led by Moses Fuamwini that they call themselves the group supporting correct sexual practices, etc., etc. Their concern is to raise enough narrative and mobilize opinion against the insistence from foreign media and foreign powers that Ghana and many African countries should legalize same-sex marriages. That means a man married to a man and a woman married to a woman. We have said on this program some weeks ago and congratulated Queen Elizabeth of England for declaring that in Britain same-sex marriage will be legal. Also, the American president, Mr. Donald Trump, has said the same thing, and we've congratulated him for that as well. But there's been concern about African countries, and recently, from the Commonwealth Summit, the British Prime Minister Theresa May urged President Akufo-Addo to have another look at our laws which criminalize same-sex marriages and homosexual behavior. So the press conference was held today, and there will be documents coming around for people to sign up to it. I'm going to sign up to this organization, this NGO that is calling for correct sexual behavior, and they also have a religious angle to it, because Moses Fuamwini says that the same-sex marriage thing is also a religious deficit of some sort. There's a spiritual matter to it, and so they also offer that as a panacea to what they deem to be an illness. He said something significant on the program yesterday, on Tuesday, that the European Human Rights Courts have also ruled that same-sex marriage, this is not a human right. We'll be getting that judgment for you and reading it in detail for you on our next edition of a program on Tuesday. But here is what transpired in our studios last Tuesday. It's just for 2 minutes. Here is Moses and I as we talked about this matter. Okay, yeah, so we're back on the show. This is Good Evening Ghana. It's live from Metro TV. Hello, Moses.
Hi, Paul. I love this.
Oh, you do?
I love Museveni. That's Yoweri Museveni.
Yes, the Ugandan president.
I like his response. That's putting it in the right manner. I mean, you don't have, you've criminalized polygamy, all right? It's a crime. It's called bigamy. So why all this sudden effort to push the homosexual agenda on all of us? And I like that kind of response. It's so disrespectful, the way the journalists go on and on and on. You know, there have been lots of, foreign dignitaries come into Ghana over the last, 15 months of the president's, era. Have you ever interviewed any of the, presidents and the dignitaries who have come over? Have you had the opportunity to interview them?
No, we don't get
Exactly.
that.
They don't even give you the opportunity. How much more have the audacity to be asking questions like that? They're no better journalists than you. Richard Quest and others, they're no better. Komla Dumo was your mate, but look at the extent to which Komla impressed everybody at the BBC. Trust me, Paul, if you went to the BBC, you probably would do a better job than a lot of the people who are out there. So they're not any different. So what gives them the audacity to sometimes talk to our presidents as if they have an obligation to respond to the questions that they ask? If the presidents respond, they're just being nice. But to see people like Richard Quest, Anderson Cooper, Amampo and others with the homosexual agenda talking, and it really annoys me. She says, oh, it is a global issue. Who made it a global issue? All right? Because you believe in it, then it becomes a global issue. I'm happy, Paul, that for once, Ghanaian journalists have woken up to this agenda. And you and I, we've been on this program so many years.
Because we've been on this program so many years, our production team were quite jealous when yesterday he congratulated Joy FM for putting the agenda right.
No, but
we were quite jealous.
I agree with you, Paul, but maybe because, they called me on the issue first. I talked about it, so I was going to congratulate you. But they are a radio outfit.
Absolutely.
You are a television outfit. And the honest truth is, you've woken up very quickly to it. Maybe they just, because of the timing of your program, they went ahead of you, all right? But to be honest with you, you've been more consistent than they have been. I must be honest with you. Sometimes I have debates with them.
Okay, so that was Moses talking to us. We'll come back to this story after we've dealt with our main topic for tonight. And our main topic for tonight is about trade. So there was a conference on the sidelines of the Commonwealth Summit. For us, it was the most important thing that happened at the Commonwealth Summit. Here are Ghanaian officials engaging with the international community about what's going to happen in Ghana. The big story, though, is about creating industrialization and using industrialization as a way to spur on the Ghanaian economy. The highlights of what we're going to show you is a panel discussion in which the chief executive officer of the Ghana Exim made some important points about agriculture and how agriculture should be viewed as a tool and a very important enabler for the industrialization that we are trying to create, and also as a catalyst for job creation. You'll hear what Mr. Exim had to say about that. But before he spoke, President Akufo-Addo addressed the audience, and so did Mr. Adom-Otchere Martin, and we've edited little portions of that before we get to the panel discussion. So let's go over to our photographs all the way from last week, London, on the sidelines of the Commonwealth Summit. This was a Ghana-UK business summit, which was held and hosted by the Ghana-UK Chamber of Commerce, and they gave the introduction. Here's Henry Bonsu, who was the MC for the event. Very interesting gentleman. Here's Henry.
This gathering aims to build upon the growing international interest in Ghana, especially a Ghana beyond. A Ghana beyond? People don't really believe it. Say it like you mean it from the belly center. A Ghana beyond? Very good. And it's going to feature Ghanaian government officials and speakers. They're here to present the country's broader economic development agenda, as well as outline the specific opportunities that exist for investors, whether you be dilettantes or real deep investors with a deep commitment and deep pockets.
When we met here a year ago, Ghana was actually not growing. The new government had just come in, and there was a lot of people questioned where Ghana was going. In the 12 months since, Ghana is now one of the fastest growing economies in the world. The government has launched flagship programs such as the One District, One Factory, the free SHS program, and there's a lot of interest from the international community about Ghana. We also have a new British High Commissioner since we last met here. Thankfully, we have a vibrant young Scotsman who doesn't spend all his time on Twitter and doesn't take no for an answer, so we're grateful for that. All is well in Accra, I should say. On a serious note, Ian, we're really grateful for your support. It's been good having you in Accra and to see you fly the flag for Ghana wherever you go, so thank you. And then finally, I'd like to say a big thank you to our sponsors. Without them, today wouldn't have happened. So Ghana Exim Bank, Aqua Africa, GIPC, GCB, Imperial Homes, Ghana International Bank, and Hogan Lovells. Oh, and Prudential. Thank you so much for your support. Finally, good.
So we want to build up to that moment, to that pièce de résistance. So let's get the program started. Please welcome, first of all, to the stage, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana, to deliver a keynote address this morning.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me say a particularly warm welcome to Mrs. Cherry Blair. Happy to have you here with us. So very difficult always to recognize yourself when other people are talking about you. But I'm grateful for those words. Thank you. And I'm grateful to the chairman of the board of the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Anthony Pyle, and his chief executive officer, Tony Berkson, for not only inviting me to participate in the second edition of the UK Ghana Investment Summit, but also for the opportunity to deliver the keynote address at this important event. It is an excellent initiative which will hopefully strengthen and deepen even further the ties of cooperation and collaboration between Ghanaian and British businesses. To the board and CEO of the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce, as we have it in Ghana, I say Aiko, well done. Ladies and gentlemen, our two nations, the United Kingdom and Ghana, have had a long and tortuous history. Ever since Captain James of the Royal Company of Adventurers landed on the shores of Accra, subsequently capital of Ghana, in the late 17th century, and built there a fort of that name that still stands today. The slave trade, imperialism, and colonialism express tragic aspects of those relations. Just as Ghanaian independence and freedom won peaceably after several decades of agitation from British imperial power and supported by extensive economic ties with Britain, reflect more positive aspects. The impact of British institutions and values on Ghanaian life is visible and pervasive. A British lawyer, for instance, would have little difficulty wandering through the Ghanaian legal system, as it is grounded on the English common law, which has been such a central and welcome feature of British civilization. We've never wavered in our belief that given an enabling environment, the ingenuity, creativity, and sense of enterprise of the Ghanaian will enable us rapidly to develop a strong, powerful economy which will deliver a good, dignified standard of living to our people. In furtherance of this, over the past 15 months in office, we have set about putting in place the measures needed to reduce the cost of doing business and improve the business environment. A key challenge of our economy, like many other economies in Africa, is infrastructural deficit. We're embarking on an aggressive public-private partnership program to attract investment in the development of both our road and railway infrastructure. We're hopeful that with solid private sector participation, we can develop a modern railway network with strong production center linkages and with the potential to connect us to our neighbors to the north, i.e. Burkina Faso, to the west, i.e. Côte d'Ivoire, and to the east, i.e. Togo. We believe that this is an area where British technology and expertise would be very welcome. I am thus notifying the business community in the United Kingdom to take advantage of the growing business-friendly climate in the country to invest in Ghana. Our flagship policies, captured by the slogans of one district, one factory, one village, one dam, and the program for planting for food and jobs, map out areas of opportunity, which I commend to you, as I do in the areas in the development of renewable energy and ICT growth. There are several projects in roads, water transport, industry, manufacturing, agriculture, petroleum and gas, renewable energy, the exploitation of our mineral wealth of bauxite, iron ore, and gold, and the ICT sector, amongst others, which are being structured to attract private sector financing. We are conscious the key to attracting private sector investment is the creation of a conducive, business-friendly, and peaceful environment, as well as the fashioning of a state machinery fit to provide strong regulatory support for private enterprise to thrive. That for us is the heart of the private-public partnership that can fast-track our development. We want to participate in the global marketplace, not on the basis of the exports of raw materials, but on the basis of things we make. We want to bring greater dignity to the lives of millions of people in Ghana. We want to build a Ghana beyond aid. I believe very strongly that Ghana is in the cusp of a new bold beginning which will repudiate the recent culture of failure. And I'm expectant that this summit will help facilitate partnerships between Ghanaian and British companies and create the common platform that generates ideas and nurtures them into success. It is my hope that exchanges of this sort will enable the strong relations between Ghana and the United Kingdom to grow even stronger. May God bless the peoples of Ghana and the United Kingdom. I thank you for your attention.
also duly observe all the requisite protocols in saying how fantastic it is to see such a great turnout at your second conference. And it is really exciting for the UK to be hosting this Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting this year in London. And it is absolutely wonderful that all 53 countries of the Commonwealth have sent such amazing delegations to the UK. And it is so fantastic that amongst them, and with the most impressive representation, is Ghana, the first African country to join the Commonwealth of Nations after independence in 1957. So wonderful to see you all here. And so 61 years later, I'm really proud that we can again celebrate the common values that the UK and Ghana share. It really is a unique relationship. It's very much based on mutual respect. And I think that as we look to the future, those values that we share will really help us deepen our relationship at so many levels and seize the opportunities that are presented to us, just as we face the challenges jointly. And so I'm delighted to announce today that UK Export Finance has just agreed to increase the cover available to Ghana by £375 million. That means, you can clap there, yeah. That means there's now £500 million of competitive financing available to support new businesses that want to partner with the UK and spur the President's plans for industrialisation through infrastructure development and value addition to important sectors that drive the economy. In addition, this week, we were pleased to announce a new partnership between the Bank of England and the Bank of Ghana. Stronger technical assistance between the two organisations will help Ghana and companies raise local currency bonds abroad. So the work we do together really makes a difference. So I'm very proud to support and represent the British government here today. I know that you have in the front row here our High Commissioner to Ghana, Ian Walker. I know that in his first 6 months he seems to have met everybody that matters in Ghana. And his team are also here to help in any way that they can. And so in today's event, in the opportunities between the formal speeches, you will have the opportunity, I'm sure, to lay the seeds of future investment, future job growth in Ghana that will truly lead us with more to celebrate in years to come. And the relationship will go from strength to strength. So can I take this opportunity to wish you a very productive and very enjoyable summit. Thank you very much.
The President obviously talked about Ghana and the prospects for economic transformation in Ghana, and the fact that Ghana is going to be one of the fastest, actually going to be the fastest growing economy in the world in 2018. But he also talked about the fact that we have a gadgets-big economy, and that growth is driven largely by commodities. And therefore, we wanted to talk this morning to you about industrialization and trade, and how the government of Ghana intends to spur that to diversify the economy. So my first question to you is, what are the key elements of that Ghana's industrialization strategy?
Well, thank you very much. And is it good afternoon or good morning? We're still in the morning or in the afternoon? Whichever. Let me start off first by putting into context how industrialization fits into this whole vision of a Ghana beyond aid. Now, the most critical element in the success stories of literally almost every country that has achieved significant growth is the vision of its leaders. And this is validated across all regions of the world. And so what we have in Ghana now, with the president articulating a vision of Ghana beyond aid, is very important. Now, but what does this really mean? In my own limited understanding of what this Ghana beyond aid means, is that Ghana is now embarking on a new transformational pathway that will make Ghana less dependent on aid. Now, it also means then that we hope as a country to develop a self-reliant, a self-sustaining, and a prosperous nation. Because it is only when you become a prosperous nation that you no longer have to depend on aid. But this is not the mere slogan. This vision of a Ghana beyond aid has three major components. First is developing a strong macroeconomic framework on the foundation of which you can build a Ghana beyond aid. And I think what the president talked about speaks for itself. So we've moved Ghana's economy from an economy in crisis into an economy that is rising. And the numbers speak for themselves. I mean, this is an economy that moved from 3.6% at the end of 2016 to 8.5% at the end of 2017. This is an economy that had an inflation of about 15.6%, and as at the end of 2017, you're talking about 10.3%, and then we are projecting that this will go further down to single digits. You are talking about an economy that had the Bank of Ghana policy rate, which is what drives interest rates, from 26% to 18% now. You're talking about an economy that had a debt to GDP ratio of over 73%, which means, technically speaking, Ghana was moving into bankruptcy. Now we've moved that to 65%, and hopefully we should be going down further so that our debt becomes more sustainable. So in a sense, the very first component of a Ghana beyond aid already has been laid, which is a strong macroeconomic framework. Now, on the back of that, because growth alone is not sustainable unless it is accompanied by development. So beyond the macroeconomic framework, there are two major programs that are supposed to drive the Beyond Aid agenda. One is enhancing agricultural production and productivity, because Ghana currently imports over $2 billion of food. And so unless you address the challenge of agricultural production and productivity, you cannot go beyond aid, because you can't even feed yourself. So how then do you go beyond aid? And we have a very comprehensive program, which is the Planting for Food and Jobs, which has, and of course, this is not the Minister of Agriculture speaking, so I don't want to take you into that. But just to tell you that this is a comprehensive program that has three pillars. One is making sure that you provide fertilizer at subsidized costs. And it's only when you provide fertilizer at subsidized prices that farmers can afford that. It also has an element of bringing in extension services to support farmers, to increase their production and productivity. And last but not the least, also to provide improved seedling materials. And in the first year of this program, over 200,000 farmers were involved in this program. By the end of this year, another 500,000 will be involved in it. So the second pillar is also on track. Now, the next pillar, which actually anchors this whole vision of Ghana Beyond Aid, is the Industrial Transformation Plan. And this also has 10 different pillars. The first component is to support local companies that are distressed. Because if you want to attract foreign investors into your country, the first litmus test is how are local companies themselves faring. So government is putting a stimulus package to support existing companies that are distressed, but which we believe are viable. The second component is what we call the One District, One Factory initiative. And this is intended to bring industrialization to the doorstep of the average Ghanaian. And so in all the 216 districts in Ghana, government is supporting the private sector, and note this distinction. This is not government establishing state enterprises. This is government supporting business promoters to establish at least one major industrial enterprise in each of the 216 districts, based on the comparative advantage, the natural resource endowment in each district. So as I speak now, I hope that the potential investors or the investors here can see the entry points for investments already in the kind of things that we are doing. So that's the One District, One Factory initiative. Then we have the One Region, One Industrial Park. I mean, the success of most of the advanced countries also point clearly to the contribution that industrial parks have made. So in each region, again, government is working with the private sector to establish one major industrial park. So that's another entry point for those of you who are enclave developers or are even interested in finding out how you can get access to land, how you can get access to dedicated energy supply to establish a factory. So that's for you. Then the other pillar, it's what we call the strategic anchor industries. Ghana has depended on cocoa and gold for over 100 years. We cannot move into the next century still talking only about cocoa. So we've identified a number of new growth poles which we believe should drive Ghana beyond aid. And I'm sure later on I can talk about that. The other pillar is diversifying our export base. And we have new strategic markets, the European market, the US market, and then the continental free trade area. We are also working on improving the domestic retail market infrastructure. I mean, so I could go on and on, but these are 10 major pillars of the industrial transformation strategy. So it's not just talking about we want to industrialize, but we have very specific components that we believe will take us into the industrial revolution.
So,
okay, so we are continuing and we are going to see the panel discussion now. I want you to particularly look out for Mr. Lawrence Agyensim, who spoke on the panel from the Ghana Exim Bank. He's the chief executive, and the solutions that he's offering for a rapid industrialization. He thinks that agriculture could be the main enabler to succeed and help support the One District, One Factory, and also be a major catalyst towards employment. What's happening, though, on Facebook right now is that our program has divided our customers on Facebook, and they are trading a lot of harsh words among themselves. We will not read all to you, but those of you watching, stop trading harsh words. Let's just listen to the minister and enjoy the program. And congratulate Otumfuo for being on the throne for 19 years. Anyway, Ni Amate says, One District, One Factory is a joke. So far as political manifestos are concerned, let's not run faster than our shadow. I suggest, he says, if government would rather make it a national policy, irrespective of any government in power, so that we can all acknowledge it, because factory is priority. And Sami says, why don't you, referring to Ni, build some of the factory so you can employ people? Is everything MPP and DC? It just says that if we use billions to pay needless 998 staffers, where will we get the money to fund One District, One Factory? Okay. Good evening, all MPP communicators. Okay, that's a long one about President Mahama. It's not useful, and many insults coming in there. Ghanaians will see the difference and decide, and I'm confident that they will decide for this government. See the eloquence with which the president spoke. Anyway, Mandela says, somebody needs mental examination. Samir comes back and says, we're talking of Ghana and you are doing MPP and politics. And the other one says, Nana Akufo-Addo must declare his stand on gay rights, and that's by some data. The earlier, the better for him, as the coalition said. Yes, we'll come back to that conversation when we finish with our industrial trade conversation. We don't want the reverse button relay race to affect 500 billion. Okay, this is a $500 million promised by the British minister. Akufo-Addo inherited a failing economy, but these are some of the achievements. Free SHS, fight against galamsey, etc., etc. Ghana will work again, he says. Okay, let's go back to the video, and now we're going to see a panel discussion. Mr. Lawrence Agyensem argues forcefully that agriculture is important in the whole analysis. Of course, the Trade Minister also said that addressing the challenges of agriculture is the way to go. The panel discussion was heated and very exciting. It's now, what time now? It's now 40 minutes, 35 minutes past the top of the hour, so 25 minutes to 10 o'clock. This is Good Evening Ghana is live. Let's have a look at the panel discussion.
So I want to go straight to Lawrence from Exim Bank. If you can tell us a little bit about how Exim Bank is responding to this ambitious plan that's been laid out by government on the industrialization and trade. And obviously Exim Bank is an export finance bank, and so it is very much linked into the trade elements of the strategy. So if you can say a little bit about Exim Bank and what you are doing to respond to this.
Thank you very much, Nana. I think that Exim Bank is the equivalent of UK Export Finance. And as UK Export Finance, the Honourable Minister came to talk about UK Export Finance giving us 375. Exim Bank Ghana as a policy bank and a development bank, of all the things that the Minister has said, we are the ones who are the implementing agency. And in this time around, we are coming along with the government to be able to make sure that we execute the strategies that the government has laid out. The Honourable Minister laid 3 components that Ghana has a solid macroeconomic indicators, and that he also made sure that he mentioned the planting for food and jobs. I must tell you that for planting for food and jobs, we cannot have the raw material if we don't have fertilizer, for instance. We cannot industrialize if we don't have the raw material across board. And in the previous administration where a sugar factory was put up and there was no raw material base, in that score, Ghana Exim Bank is working closely with the private sector to make sure that we finance the raw material in terms of seed multiplication. We are recently giving approval for a loan for blending of fertilizer. As we speak, we do have 2 fertilizer blending companies in Ghana. Going forward, the minister also made mention of AGWA. I was on the same platform with him. As we speak, in actualizing and realizing this vision, which is not just talk and slogan, we have put in place $10 million. That's making Ghana the first West African country in leading the AGWA in West Africa. He also mentioned making Ghana as a pharmaceutical hub. Again, when the government came into office, we realized that at least we have a competitive advantage in pharmaceuticals in Ghana. And in West Africa, we have about 350 million population, as the minister rightly said. And in Africa in general, it's about 1.2 billion. So in talking about markets, it is attractiveness of the country is key, because you have access to a 350 million. And Ghana, in respect of Exim Bank, we've also invested $60 million to about 7 manufacturing companies who are in pharmaceuticals to make them GMP compliant. That is good manufacturing practice, a requirement by WHO. This is going to take a leap forward in our industrialization drive. On AGWA, as I've already said, diversification of the export, for us to become an export-led economy. Again, we've had cocoa, which we are exporting raw. We've added onto cocoa cashew. The President of the Republic of Ghana, just about 3 weeks ago, launched a 10-year development plan for cocoa. In that aspect, Ghana Exim Bank is also investing $30 million into the 10-year development plan. Now, cashew has become a cash cow. So in that way, from the whole value chain of planting, from processing, and more importantly, for warehousing, which is something the minister also made mention of. 1 district per warehouse. Ghana Exim Bank is supporting that as well. So if you did ask me, these are some of the interventions that we are making. 1, in line with our mandate to make sure we increase our exports and increase our earnings on foreign exchange to make sure that our dependency on importation is reduced.
This is very interesting. I mean, obviously, this is from Talk to Action, and very pleased to hear about that. I'm going to move to you, Nana Kwame. You're an industrialist, and you hear the policymakers talk about industrialization. I want to give you an opportunity to say a little bit about how the enabling environment, we're still sticking to the theme of the enabling environment, how is that supporting your business? And in doing so, can you talk a little bit about tropical cable and how you've grown and your growth strategy in the future?
All right, thank you very much. Tropical Cable and Conductors Limited. We are manufacturers of electrical cables and conductors, from high tension to household cables. We have also armored cables and armored cables for the mining sector, as well as other industrial sectors as well. We have vertically integrated our line. We put in our aluminum raw material bit. So we have an aluminum ingot that feeds ourselves of the raw material bit of our production. We just put in a PVC compounding plant, for the insulation bit of our cables. And we sell that to, we feed that to ourselves and obviously export the rest to the sub-region. Enabling environment is very key. Practically in 2016, end of 2015, we were losing around 30% of our production due to what we famously known as doomsaw, which is the fluctuations of electricity. And I can confidently say, since the new government took over and some of the policies that you've heard here being implemented, we are down to 1% to 2% of electricity going off and on, etc., etc. So that has significantly improved our production capacity, across board. So it's important that the enabling environment is key. We also realized that interest rates, for instance, for the banks, is still high, but it's coming down. It's reducing, it's reducing. This is from a practical standpoint, and we commend the government for doing that, the finance ministry in collaboration with the banks, etc. So, yeah.
Can you say a little bit about the domestic company's capability? And I think that's been one of the things that we talked about pair up. In a good industrialization strategy, you have FDI coming in and you have strong domestic companies partnering with them. As a bank, have you seen that growth in domestic firms as you've been engaging with them? And I would like to ask a similar question to you as an Exim bank.
Yeah, the challenge generally has been the volume from the domestic partner perspective of levels of capital that they can bring to the table where they want to collaborate with an FDI partner. And seeing that is where we as a financial institution, we've recalibrated our focus in terms of what we can do in this circumstance to provide the needed assistance in the area of providing funding from the local partnership perspective. The DFI population is always talking about land is not the ultimate, is not everything. Things must go beyond land. And beyond land, that's where we as a financial institution, we step in to provide the needed assistance to the local partners. We've done a few since the stimulus package in particular started. And even under the One District, One Factory, we have projects that we have approved that hitherto, in my wildest of dreams, we wouldn't have even opened up to talk to.
Thank you, Dana. I think there are a lot of local companies in Ghana that are viable, that do have banking projects that will be attractive in all sectors of the economy. I will pitch for the value addition in terms of agriculture and manufacturing. I was in India about 2 weeks ago where I mentioned that we've been too much focusing on infrastructure. Governments have lost elections because the population have always said that we cannot eat bridges and infrastructure. So we need to create employment. We need to empower people to be economically viable. For that reason, the way to go is manufacturing. In that aspect, we have Ghanaian indigenes who are in poultry, We have people in pharmaceuticals. We have people in processing of fruits. And I would plead that these are the areas that will take us to the next level. And with our enabling environment in terms of rule of law, macroeconomic stability, as has been mentioned, 8.5 growth from 3.5, inflation that is down. All these indicators will propel Ghana, and if you come, return on investment will be good. And therefore, we look forward to have all of you in Ghana for us to take the country forward.
And Prof, final question to you before I ask everybody to sum up on the panel is this. We've heard a lot about the enabling environment, Ghana being open and friendly for business, but I do hear from investors from time to time about the frustrations in dealing with government agencies. I know that you are in the process of reform, customs reform. Can you say a little bit, because you're part of that customs network, and how easy it is to move goods across the border, and that is critical for people who want to do industry and trade?
Basically, we're having a paperless port system where we are ensuring that the state agencies at the ports for inspection, especially of imports, are reduced to just two: the Standards Authority and the Food and Drugs Authority for products that they regulate. I think the aim is to cut down times to maximum 48 hours from the time your goods set off. So we now have a pre-arrival information system that you can just load everything before the goods even set sail. And by the time they get there will be an announcement next week guaranteeing the 48 hours. We've also now had an agreement with companies overseas who can look at your certificate of conformity and your certificate of quality assurance, so that before your products come, we would have assessed them. So at the end of the day, once again, I'll repeat what everybody has said. We are open for business, and business must be different this time. It's all about you trusting what we do. And we keep saying that at the Standards Authority, it's not just about the products, it's about the processes and the services. If the business community cannot trust that we'll deliver and deliver on time, then there is trouble. But I believe that we've built enough infrastructure. In fact, few people are aware that as we speak, if you are looking for the most complicated state-of-the-art furniture testing laboratory to any standard, you'll find it in Ghana. If you're looking at gold and gold exports, petroleum, petrochemicals, we have the laboratories. So for anyone wishing to do business, please just talk to us. At the end of the day, what we keep saying is that what we don't have, we'll work with you to produce. And I'm glad Tropical Cable has already made comments of that. Because hitherto, we had challenges where the market is competing with dodgy products. There are problems. We cleaned up, and now they can attest to it. But at the end of the day, we have people who can be trained, and they are available.
Okay. I will give my panel the final words. And in saying your final words, can you focus on the subject industrialization and trade? And I like the point you made about, infrastructure as an enabler, but actually you do need industry, you need production, you need the services around the production that will create the jobs. And I think that's what the president talked about, the Gadgetsburg economy. So in your final words, can you talk about, wrapping up, saying something about the opportunities, sectors, things that you think that are definitely going to be interesting for the audience to hear, or things that are going to be exciting for them to hear about Ghana? Please wrap up in a few words.
Okay. With a political stable economy, fiscal consolidation, lower interest rates, and a GDP that is growing, I think the country Ghana is very attractive to receive foreign direct investment. I will plead that because we want to be an export-led economy, rather focus on poultry, where Ghana imports about 90%. Pharmaceutical is key as a strategic anchor. And I'll add the vegetable sector as well. We are into cassava and cashew. And all of those, we are not looking for raw material export, but we are looking for value addition. And if you partner Exim Bank, it will give you competitiveness and capacity for the local partner to be able to work with any investor that would.
I hope you enjoyed the conversation, and the text messages are here thick and fast. I'm going to read them, and I'm sure you can go on the website of the Ministry of Trade and also of the Ghana Exim Bank to find out more if you're a businessman listening to us. So our text messages are running and rushing in. So one says, this is from Eben, says that, I like the presentation of the Exim Bank MD. He sounds very confident. The other one says that, I am sure that this government will deliver. Hopefully by the end of 2019, NDC followers will start campaigning for NPP. That's obviously an NPP person. NK Mediac says, we don't want to reverse the baton. Okay, I read that already. Jeffrey Parker says that Akufo-Addo inherited a failed economy. I've seen that already. Amponsan says, hopefully Ghana will work again. Jay Ways says, what I believe is that the MPP is far better than the NDC. Jerry White says, I think the NDC is better than the MPP. More promises, please get to work, Mr. President. Kwabena says that Ghana is surely going to work again. Owusu Jean says, it's about time to champion the transformation agenda. I like the way Mr. Lawrence spoke about it. Chibi Will says, good evening. I'm delighted for this government for them to have this laudable idea, which is one district, one factory alone will improve the lives of Ghanaians. Ghanaians must be patient for the MPP. Well, Ebo says that agricultural development should now focus on high-value commodities and value-added processing rather than just shipping foodstuffs, just like the MD was saying. Can Ghanaians for once, and this is from Papsoli Solomon, he says, can Ghanaians for once think Ghana? Guys, please stop this MPP NDC. About 75% of Ghanaian frontline politicians don't do anything for Ghana. They actually work to diminish Ghana while promoting their personal interests. God will judge all of us. Let's concentrate on Ghana. It has to be Ghana first. He says, Sami Redu says, I'm really happy for the level that Ghana is going. God should really answer our prayers. Usu Ansan said, I commend you, Paul, and the producers of Good Evening Ghana for this informative program today. I am being enlightened on the economic transformational pathway Ghana is traveling. It's time Ghanaians put aside party differences and forge together to build our dear nation. I reside in Sweden and would love to come home and contribute my quota to this developmental agenda. How can I get the number of the Ghana Exim MD? Well, as I said, you can go on their website and it's there. Benjamin Quay says, why is it that Ghanaian politicians are not pushing for a national policy rather than this party politics manifesto agenda? I respect President Akufo-Addo for the decision to continue with Eswal Mahama projects. This just reveals his love for our dear nation. But I think this one district, one factory must be a national agenda that all parties will look up to. So we're running out of time now on this program. We wanted to show you a little bit of the conversation that we had with Moses Famwinin, which was last Saturday's. It's a long conversation, and we might not be able to do that. It will be on our Facebook page anyway, and so it will be there upon your demand. Whenever you want it, you can go to our Facebook page and watch it. We'll, however, show you what we showed you at the beginning of the program, the 2 minutes that's quite hilarious, actually, say, of what he told us on Tuesday. Here is the 2 minutes that we first showed you. Because of lack of time, we can't go to everything. Okay, yeah, so we're back on the show. This is Good Evening Ghana. It's live from Metro TV. Hello, Moses.
Hi, Paul. I love this.
Oh, you do?
I love Museveni. That's Yoweri Museveni.
Yes, the Ugandan president.
I like his response. That's putting it in the right manner. I mean, you don't have, you've criminalized polygamy, all right? It's a crime. It's called bigamy. So why all this sudden effort to push the homosexual agenda on all of us? And I like that kind of response. It's so disrespectful, the way the journalists go on and on and on. You know, there have been lots of, foreign dignitaries come into Ghana over the last, 15 months of the president's, era. Have you ever interviewed any of the, presidents and the dignitaries who have come over? Have you had the opportunity to interview them?
No, we don't get
Exactly.
that.
They don't even give you the opportunity. How much more have the audacity to be asking questions like that? They're no better journalists than you. Richard Quest and others, they're no better. Komla Dumo was your mate, but look at the extent to which Komla impressed everybody at the BBC. Trust me, Paul, if you went to the BBC, you probably would do a better job than a lot of the people who are out there. So they're not any different. So what gives them the audacity to sometimes talk to our presidents as if they have an obligation to respond to the questions that they ask? If the presidents respond, they're just being nice. But to see people like Richard Quest, Anderson Cooper, Amampur and others with the homosexual agenda talking, and it really annoys me. She says, oh, it is a global issue. Who made it a global issue? All right? Because you believe in it, then it becomes a global issue. I'm happy, Paul, that for once, Ghanaian journalists have woken up to this agenda. And you and I, we've been on this program so many years.
Because we've been on this program so many years, our production team were quite jealous when yesterday you congratulated Joy FM for putting the agenda right.
No, but
we were quite jealous.
I agree with you, Paul, but maybe because you know, they called me on the issue first. You know, I talked about it. So I was going to congratulate you. But they are a radio outfit.
Absolutely.
You are a television outfit. And the honest truth is, you've woken up very quickly to it. Maybe they just, you know, because of the timing of your program, they went ahead of you, all right? But to be honest with you, you've been more consistent than they have been. You know, I must be honest with you. Sometimes I have debates with them.
Okay, so our expression of jealousy got results for Moses, and he gave us a full endorsement. Earlier today, he held a press conference announcing a new organization that I'm going to sign up to, and I urge many of you to sign up to as well, which is to help people have a proper sexual behavior so that we don't endorse single-sex marriages. In England, the Queen of England, Elizabeth, says no to it. In America, Donald Trump says no to it. These are the two places that's a citadel of homosexuality. And the two leaders of those places have said no to it. I'm not sure that we in Ghana should say yes. We should actually say no as well. But of course, it depends on the policymakers. And I hope that you will join me in this matter to say no to our policymakers, not to say yes to the pressure from the Western media and the Western heads of state. Claudia Naameli Texan says, Paul, I believe the planting for food and jobs is a good idea, which can lead to industrialization. However, there is need to ensure that these subsidized agricultural inputs get the smallholder farmers through effective monitoring. Well, that's what planting for food and jobs is about. If you speak to the Minister of Agriculture, Dr. Usu Efriakoto, he will tell you that the smallholder farmers are the key point. They are the main actors in planting for food and jobs. Very soon we'll find all of that out with the Minister of Agriculture. Somebody says, I hope everything MPP is saying is true. If it is, then Ghana will be heaven very soon. Okay. And Favor Obuadum says, let's pray that Ghana will work again. So it's 2 minutes to the top of the hour. We're wrapping up at 10 o'clock. It's been a very, very busy week for us here at Metro TV, but it's ending quite nicely. I'm sure that it's been a busy week for you, also ending quite nicely. And so if you drink, don't drive. And let's meet again on Tuesday. Thanks for watching and good night.